the latest buzzword is AI. So everybody is talking about AI, right? And everybody is trying to utilize AI for their personal and professional needs. But what is it? How does it help? Is it at all something that we should adopt? Is it at all something that will benefit us? It's a disruption for sure. Like smartphones have been, around 15-20 years back. Like, digital, while it was around 15-20 years back, digital was a buzzword. And everybody started saying digital. And when you don't have answers to anything, people started talking about, okay, we'll do digital. So widely abused and widely misunderstood term, digital, AI, etc. Now, so before starting, and since we are consultants, it is very important that we understand each other. So you are audience here, you have come here to learn certain things, and obviously whatever we know, we have gathered as an experience over the last X number of years, we will have to tailor it based on your experience, understanding of the subject. And I assume not all of you are from technology background, so we'll try to tailor it so that it becomes understandable for all of you, and you are able to, when you walk out of the room after the session, you at least have some understanding of what you came with. Now, how many of you have some technology background? Okay. And when I say technology, what kind of, so you may, chime in, what kind of technology? Is it very specific to focus to automation, or how is it?
ERP implementation, including, like say SAP or bespoke ERP, development and implementation, bespoke development and implementation, and SAP.
Okay. So if you, and I'll start with you only, you are the only lady.
Speaking.
Only lady in our room also. So we'll start with you. So maybe 20 years down the line, or 25 years down the line, when we started our career, people used to talk about automation, right? There were people who said that, okay, we'll implement an ERP and that will say, through an SAP, will automate your material management process or your procurement process, right? So automation was still used at that time. So how do you think it is different now, from your experience?
It's much more automated.
Like
artificial intelligence, or like robotics was there even before that. Physical robotics I have seen myself. Other than the bot part of it. I think it's more intrusive.
Okay.
More intrusive, I find. My experience.
So most of us are of the same age, I believe.
I'm older.
Robot, and I'm sure you all understand Hindi, English and Bengali, will use it interchangeably. Robot for us, people of that age, we visualize that Johnny Soko and that flying robot. You remember there was a TV show at that time which we as kids used to love. So robot we visualize. And if we, there was a recent movie, not too recent, 3 Idiots, if you have seen that movie. There was a scene where the professor asked the engineering student, and that student was Amir Khan, what is the machine? Right. And he tries to explain a machine through a very simple language. Pen ke nip se pen ke zip tak, everything is a machine. Right? So, and he explained why he is trying to call it a machine. And then there was another student who tried to define in bookish language. So we need to understand what is a machine, what is a robot. Right. First of all, a machine is anything, and I'll kind of follow what Ranchhoda Chancha said in that movie. It's anything that makes our life easier. Right. So that's the very usual definition of a machine. And when we started our school lives, I think we all started by understanding what is an inclined plane and and why is it called a machine, right? And then I think there were in our engineering days there were several other examples, and so then from machine there is a robot, right? Where I think robot is also a machine, but it is kind of governed and controlled by some programs at the back, and that is where the concept of a computer comes in, right? Where you have some programs which defines or which guides a robot to do certain activities. Now when it is kind of shifted to making a specific process in our day-to-day life easier, more efficient, and to some extent cost effective. So it is termed as robotic process automation. But essentially, when we talk about, we'll try to cover the entire gamut of intelligent automation today, and it is much beyond RPA, what we typically talk about when we say robotic process automation. So there is a set of slides that we have created, and it is more from making you understand what it is all about, some industry facts and figures about RPA and the other areas of intelligent automation, so that you understand where we are in terms of adoption, in terms of usage, etc. Then we'll try to cover a little definition of RPA and the typical use cases across the various industries, and we'll then dive a little into finance, because what I understood from Sandeep is that most of you would have finance background and would be interested in learning more about finance. How can robotic process automation be used in finance as a functional area? And then we'll obviously show some typical use cases videos, and we'll also try to open it up for questions. We'll make it interactive, but we'll request if the questions can be taken till the end of the session, because otherwise it affects the flow of the conversation. But we'll make it interactive, and we'll have conversations in between. Okay? Does that make sense?
And we will also mention in our transformation angle, data transformation, how this thing is being staged there globally, okay? On what points? In an entire integrated operations. Oh, sorry. Hello.
So, as I was saying, I think we talked about machines, robots, processes, different or various business processes. So, the broad components of, to introduce before we go into IPA as a subject, is you have to understand what is a machine, you have to understand what is a robot, what are the differences, how does it culminate to a concept of robotic process automation. We have to understand what is the business process, and I'm sure you all would be working with different processes in your organizations. So say for example finance and the sub-functions, or HR and its sub-functions. And finance and HR are very important areas where RPA can be utilized effectively. So we'll have to understand those processes, and I'm sure you all are experts in that. And we'll also have to understand a little bit about how RPA is moving towards more advanced technology mechanisms, including AI or cognitive automation, and which uses. So if you think about RPA, it's, say for example, to think very simply, it is a set of computer programs that helps you automate a certain process. Yes, say for example, I want to send you a mail at 12 a.m., right? And I'm typing that mail, say at 5 p.m. and I'll be out of my laptop after that. So I can write a small program or an agent or whatever you call it, and make that program trigger that mail to the recipient at 12 at night. And we have been historically doing this for years, right? The packaging, we are calling it RPA today because there are tools, platforms that have come in of late who are making it more sophisticated and easier. This is a very simple example. Now, it is moving towards a lot of adoption of AI. आज के डेट में, so when we were working in 2017-18, RPA was very, very hot. Then came metaverse, then came AI. So if you look at typical Gartner hype cycle, there are, each of these years as we progress, there are different technology concepts coming in and featuring at the top of the Gartner hype cycle. And for the last few years, AI has been at the top. And then you have Gen AI, then you have a lot of other, automation topics which are combining together to form the concept of IPA, right? So while we are expected to talk about RPA, and I believe most of you were interested in doing it, we will touch upon AI also, because if you are on the verge of adopting intelligent automation today, you cannot live without it, right? RPA cannot be alone serving your or solving your business issues. Okay. I think some of the key terminologies, technology terminologies, when you talk to your teams, your external people, technology professionals, some of the important terminologies that you need to understand are these, and you would see a lot of application of these, whether it's a RPA or a cognitive automation or a digital assistant or an autonomous agent. You would see a lot of application of these in your day-to-day life. If you are getting into a bank portal today, you would see a lot of even public sector banks in India are also getting into these. You go into manufacturing, you go into retail, you go into any sector, you will see a lot of applications of these going forward. And we are already in an age where people have started using it. So it is very important, and this is what we are trying to do in this session, is for you to understand. See, there are people, I'll tell you, and since we are consultants, we keep on speaking to clients regularly, across sectors, across geographies. There is AI, so we have to adopt it. Right? This is one sector of people, but we don't know how to adopt it. There are people who want to understand and cut or tailor AI or automation and use it for their exact requirement, so that it gives them business benefit or a cost reduction or an efficiency. Right? So for us, it is very important to understand and appreciate the pros and cons of using all of this. Some important statistics, and this is based on the recent data, very recent data. So if you look at this, the technologies that are being used, adopted by sectors across the globe, and these are all global data, right? The Indian data is a little different, but we are talking about global data. So if you see, virtual assistants and AI are at the top, right? And if you see robotic process automation, maybe 5 years back or 4 years back, it was at the top, right? Sorry, it was at the top. Now it has come down on this list, while AI and cognitive automation is taking over. So usage of machine learning, deep learning, and all these technologies using, combined together to create AI or virtual assistant or all those autonomous technology offerings are slowly moving towards the top. And what we are forecasting or foreseeing is this will remain at the top for the next 5 years. Okay.
Just one thing here, if you see this, some of these things are already combined, okay. For example, we talk of virtual assistant, we are talking of AI, GenAI based chatbots, right, which are coming more now. And they are using NLPs, the natural language processing technologies, and speech and image recognition, speech recognition technologies, right. And at the back end, they are using machine learning models, right. So the interesting thing to note here in intelligent automation is more platforms are coming up with these technologies as a addition to their to their platform, like plugins, right. So you will see a lot of chatbot technologies are coming, which are native chatbots. You will see a lot of central chatbot technologies which are also coming, right. For example, Watson is a IBM technology, you all know, which has all these capabilities, right, to be there. So more and more we are seeing this, and RPA is at here, but I think lot of processes in some sectors, like in procurement or in some financial areas, RPA has already been adopted. So bots are already there, they're doing some tasks. But what they're now doing is that they're adding these capabilities over the bots. Right, so that's the difference.
We'll go through those examples,
Yeah.
and we'll talk more in details about those things. I think we speak about RPA especially, and we are talking about the global RPA trends now. And if you look at this, particular data or statistics, you will see that the adoption of RPA or the market size of RPA till 2030, it's on a increasing trend. It's showing an increasing trend. Obviously, this increase would have been much larger, or the curve had been much steeper if there were not the inclusions of the AIs or the machine learning. But nevertheless, I think we have a fair market size in front of us, and we expect that there would be adoption of RPA going forward in a upward curve. But at the same time, as we said earlier, it is going to be a combination of RPA and AI and all. Even if you look at the largest RPA providers, the platform providers of the world, they are also in their tools that they usually use, they are also trying to drastically and strongly bring in AI capabilities to make it relevant to the needs of the industries. Right.
Yeah, just couple of points here in this slide. I don't know whether you have noticed. See, the reason why the curve is a bit steeper at the end is, in many organizations, there is now what they're doing is a consolidation piece in terms of consolidation and standardization, in terms of platforms, in terms of processes. The more processes are getting consolidated and the more processes are getting streamlined, adoption of RPAs become more relevant. Bots, right? Because bots only work on very streamlined processes. They don't work on processes which are not standardized, right? So that's one interesting point. And I think other interesting point, if you see the top point, RPA is now coming up with more adoption of unstructured data. Unstructured data mining, basically, on the business operations. So that added capability has come in every RPA platform. There is a concept of co-pilot, you have all heard, and co-pilot solutions are being added in every platform now. For example, Automation Anywhere is a RPA tool. It has its own co-pilot platform, which gives your AI capabilities. So that's the the difference, basically, the interesting point in this.
Some typical use cases and the scopes, and this is across industries, and this is built based on the experience that we have of implementing or assessing or fitment analysis of RPA for different customers. And obviously there are some data from the analysts also. So if you see the kind of scope that you have across all these sectors and some of the known functional areas, like and this is not restricted to these functional areas, but these are more of the low-hanging functional areas where you can use RPA. So you would see the from low, high and medium, what is the typical adoption rate of RPA across industries and across the functional areas or the business processes. Now, there's a very important thing to understand here. Say for example, you are working in the HR department of an organization, right? And you see that from the senior leadership, there is a intent of digitalizing or digitizing or digital transformation to obviously, enhance your business outcome. Now, based on that, you are given the responsibility as a, say, HR head or a HR personnel to evaluate whether you can use any of these automation techniques to reduce your cost and increase your efficiency. So how you do it? So there are very defined and recommended ways of doing that. Obviously, you will have to do a lot of study, background study of how an RPA tool or a RPA as a technology or even intelligent automation as a technology can be used in your HR processes. So that's one. So you would get a lot of input from by just Googling. Apart from that, I think it is very, very essential, and which is what he was saying, to understand your business processes and to identify where you would be able to use automation to increase the efficiency or reduce the cost. Say for example, there are certain sets of repetitive or mundane activities, as he was saying, where you see there are 10 people in your team working on a day-to-day basis, right? Now you have to identify them, the total turnaround time, and you will have to actually talk to a set of people, a technology professionals, to understand if you are using a RPA bot there, how is it going to reduce the turnaround time for that particular process, right? Is it actually going to reduce by 80%, 90%? Is it, if you are spending say X lakhs for implementation of that particular program, or even as a OPEX after implementation, does it justify to implement that for saving this turnaround time, right? And it will also probably help you free up 8 people of your 10-member team to do certain other work for your, say, employee experience or something else, right? So
this is a standardized process, as you said.
not necessarily.
Streamlined process.
Not necessarily.
Having less deviation.
Right. But what is more critical meeting or decision-making is required, or it can fit the fit.
Yes.
It can fit.
Yes. It can be fit into any other process.
Through AI process.
Yes. This is generally from our experience, people are adopting for these processes.
Can I answer that? So, okay, so there is a, actually it is a few slides later, but there is a concept of process mining for automation. So typically what happens in a digital transformation program is, like there is an objective, right? So automation primary objective is actually cost optimization, right? And finding efficiency. Now there is a process discovery thing that is being done, right? So what you do is that you do a process mining, business process mining, and you find the automation hotspots. And there is a lot of things, ranking, etc. being done. So these hotspots are then mapped to a particular automation opportunity. It need not be a RP opportunity always. It can be anything. It is mapped to a automation opportunity, and then a value case is being derived of that. So what is the value you are getting, right? Because that has to be funded by business. Business has to get that value. Only when you get the value case and it is approved, you actually do the solutioning to map to a particular automation solution which can be an RP, right? So that's how it is done. Now this process mining is a very, very important task, but the specific automation BAs actually do that. Okay, and they are like automation BAs but into that domain. They know that domain actually, right? So that's how it is done.
Because if this identification is not done properly, when you bring in a tool, the entire program will
and that is irrelevant of your platform. So whether you are using an XYZ platform, something that is irrelevant. This is your automation cases, and this is your value case. So you are saving so and so investment you are making. This is what your overall saving, and this is the investment that is being funded by business to invest, to do the implementation of those basically, or do the solution.
The identification of the process.
Identification is very important. That's the first step. Discovery. They call it discovery.
Which is fit for the.
And typically what happens is in the RPA programs, you don't go for a big bang always first. You always do a POC and then you do a pilot. So there is a pilot phase. When you create a pilot, you do that, you see how it works. Because sometimes implementation is very complex based on the ecosystem, right? And then you actually, once you are done, then you expand it to the wider scenario. So that's how a cycle goes basically typically.
So the key takeaway from this section and what I wanted to convey to all of you is, if you are managing a certain set of processes in your organization, keen to kind of make it more efficient, more standardized, more cost effective, and probably free up a portion of your team and use them for something more useful, free them up from the regular repetitive work, then you should first think of assessing and finding those hotspots. We should not, and I stress on not, just adopt either RPA or AI with a big bang, or just without doing any due diligence. You should do that due diligence, understand it in details, find those hotspots, do the planning properly, do the roadmap, create the roadmap from the entire implementation, and then jump into it. Right? So for that you need to understand how people are adopting experientially. So if you are, say, in the manufacturing industry and driving HR for that company, you should probably talk to a fellow manufacturing HR head who has implemented RPA or AI and have got some benefits out of it. Right? So it's experiential and it's based on a systematic and a scientific approach. So it is not advisable to jump into RPA or AI just like that. So that's the key takeaway from this section. We'll take a pause here. Patience.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Telecom, I've seen like from my experience that data capture from the call record capture, CDR what we call, and then converting into finally the invoice which comes to the consumer. A lot of gaps, especially with the older, the government-run companies, because of the old machines, they all drop. So is there any scope of automation through, RPA in some way possible? Because there are many intermediaries, from the main machine which is capturing the call and finally going to an ERP which is generating the invoice. There are at least 2, 3, if not more, there where direct integration is not possible. So is it possible to, is it any way RPA can help, or I don't know, it is from your machine to, converting the data or records to data?
It is possible.
Thanks.
So there are many ways. One is, so for example, you are, say I will take a use case as you mentioned, right, that I have some data which is coming from outside. Maybe it is through Excel or manually somebody is pouring the data, and then you are churning the data through 2 or 3 systems to some validation, and then you are doing some transaction to generate the invoice with that data. Now when you are doing the transaction, maybe you are generating invoice from a SAP, for example, right? For that somebody is going to SAP, logging to SAP and generating that invoice, right? Okay, I am doing that. Or maybe you have an integration. If you don't have an integration, somebody has to go to that and do that, right? RPA can do both ways. If the process is standardized, there is a less amount of error in the process, right? And there are less complex rules, business rules, and less amount of workflows, then definitely RPA can do that. How it can do that? It can do in multiple ways. RPA has a capability of doing a UI level automation. So RPA can actually log into the SAP system and do the user, whatever you are doing, right? A person is doing, The same recording RP can do repetitively. That's number one. RP can also do a API based integration if there is an API available, right? So that is there. That they can do basically. The catch is this process. The exceptions, because exceptions will again go to the exception queue. If there are more exceptions, there is no point of deploying a bot in that process. So the process has to be quite error-free, very standardized, simple steps, less amount of business rules, less complex business rules, and standard workflows. So then we can definitely do that. Yes, Abhijit.
So there are 2 points I wanted to address. One is in telco, based on our experience, I have not seen a lot of RT implementations, to be very honest. So we have worked, historically have worked with multiple telcos across the globe. We are currently working with some of the largest telcos. So you would know Tech Mahindra is a large telco provider. So we have a lot of telco experience. We are currently, from my team only, we are doing a lot of telco work for large European telco providers. But even if we are doing a holistic entire end-to-end architecture, we have not seen the need of RPA in those architectures, either on the OSS side or on the BSS side. On both sides, there are not too many applications of RPA that we have seen. But technologically, as he said, it is possible. Right? Probably it is because of a few things I tell you, and these are things to keep in mind. We forgot to mention that in the earlier section. All these, AIs, machine learnings, RPAs and all, the accuracy is not that high till now. Say for example, you are doing a invoice processing, right? And it is one of the accounts payable is one of the top use cases for IT. So there are specific tools in the world, and there are combinations of tools in the world who does the. So there is an invoice that is scanned, and then you capture the different fields of the invoice, and then put it into the metadata into the say the ERP, and that does the three-way match and the further processing, right? So this is the entire P2P or the invoice processing work. Now when you capture that data through OCR, right, and there are probably algorithms. Even if you do a teaching after that, which is your machine learning, we have seen that the accuracy starts from 60% and it goes up to 80%. And particularly in Indian context, and I tell you from my experience, so there are handwritten invoices. There are different invoices, different formats. Right, so the accuracy comes down even further. So it is one of the very important points that you have to consider when you adopt to these kinds of technologies. So I think one of the reasons why telecom does not implement it is this, the accuracy, and there are certain regulatory limitations also. Right, country to country, it varies from country to country. So that is why probably it is not adopted that much. But technologically, to answer your question, it's possible.
Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, so I think we discussed this. Abhijit already mentioned that RP is basically a software program, right? It's a software program which automates your business process, right? Now, there are things like attended bots. I think one of our president here will present that. There are attended bots, unattended bots concept, which attended bots are like you have a program on your machine, and he or she, that program actually acts, kind of works on your machine on your behalf to do that, right? And unattended bots are like they work on the server at the back end, and they can be like your servants. They can be scheduled to do a HR job in the morning, a finance job in the afternoon, and they can be scheduled. And whenever they are free, they can do that. Even they can do that within a transaction. If some event message is not coming, that bot actually, with that time, free time, they do some work and then come back and do that. So all these stuff are there. The reason is because there are more license fees for for the unattended boards and less license fees for the attended boards. But it's basically a software program.
Bengali, right?
মানে
যত গুড় ঢালবেন তত মিষ্টি হবে, যত পয়সা দেবেন
না
তত
তো
features পাবেন।
yeah, the point is ki at the end of the day it's a software program, it's not a physical robot like what that in a factory. It's a software program and আগে ওটা আমরা করতাম, we were doing it previously also the same way. It's only the difference is now the platforms have come with like a drag and drop kind of scenario, so it's very easy for the business person also to create a bot. So mostly, of course, if you need to do some advanced programming, you need a developer. But if you need a basic kind of automation, you just drag and drop the the functions, and you will get a workflow which works, right? You can deploy that and you can run it. It's very easy,
simple and easy to
and it's very easy.
but the ideation and the conceptualization is very important. So if you don't do it properly, so developers will always come in, they will develop, they will do those designs and development integration. Integration might be a little tricky with other systems, but
Integration,
the conceptualization, finding the hotspots, that is very critical. See, when you are thinking about adopting such a disruptive technology, you will have to be very careful and cognizant of the pros and cons. So that is why it is very, very important.
Okay. Yeah. So see this slide, if you see the left hand side, most of these are like regular activities what we do, right? It's like a logging to a system, copying a file, creating an email, right? Then filling some data forms, doing some basic validation, some basic logic, right? If then else or some basic logic, etc. Bot can do everything, but and at the right hand side, if you see some very famous, very popular use cases we have given. So it's like these activities just to emphasize that the basic human activities can be replicated by a bot. Simple.
Nowadays it is used for frauds also.
Yeah.
Sandeep can, throw some light on it. There would be a lot of bot-driven calls coming to all of us saying, your number would be,
Those are called
inactive
bots.
in
So you get a bank call, those are the bots are calling it.
inactive in the next 2 hours. So press 1 to continue. Sandeep knows what to do out of that.
There are a lot of people from cyber security going there. I'm not the
So yeah.
I
No, but I think so. Just if we consider overall automation space, right? More than RPA, I think the conversational chatbots is the most buzzwords nowadays. Actually, so for example, I can tell you that it's a guided buying for a customer, right? You have a conversational chatbot, and you just that uses its internal models to actually give you a guided buying experience for the particular user. So those things are more coming up in the in the different value streams basically globally. Some numbers here, if you see, very interesting numbers, and if you see the sheer volume, right? How many bots are being added? 2.3 billion globally. It's huge. Okay. Yeah.
So one more thing is important. Sorry, Ujjal, just one
sure.
point I wanted to add here. Adoption is also important. Adoption or acceptance. Say, I'll give you an example. Screening your CV. Say, for example, you have applied for a job, right? Against a particular job notification, and somebody on the company's side, he or she is screening your CVs, and you get a call as a candidate. You get a call from that person that okay, I've received your CV against this job posting. So why don't you tell us about yourself, and we'll do further validations, and then probably call you for an interview. Right? So that's one scenario. Now this CV screening and contacting the candidate, you think about, we are replacing by a bot. Right? So I, as a candidate, how would my experience change? Would I like it?
No.
So the human touch is gone. So you are trying to get talk to a customer care executive in a bank. So there are too many one-twos that you will have to press, and then probably after 10 minutes you get through that, to talk to that person. Do you like it? None of us do. Right? So the experience has got changed. Is it always right to do it, adopt it?
See, it depends upon the context.
Yes.
If you see the bank also, there are some activities for which you can easily solve the problem by going through the IVR menus. If you keep a human there, it involves a cost. So whatever is being done, the basic idea is how do you save the cost to give a different experience to the user. But yes, there are some areas where
Quick answers, yes. But I'll ask you a question against that. You are a customer of, say, ICICI Bank. No hard feelings for that bank. And you go into a bot from that portal and you ask a question. There are a lot of times, and these are predefined questions. You would understand there are data at the back end and they are trained based on the answers and all. So many a times the bot is unable to answer a particular question. Do we get irritated?
Yes.
that is the time how you configure the bot that when it is not able to respond, it will say that look, wait.
No, that depends on the data. The more data you will have, the more training you would be able to do the give to the bot, right? That depends on the data. But data to sab kuch to is not onto that
See
organization.
again, it will be the organization or how they are configuring these bots. The example that you gave, ICICI bot is different, but then if you go to Citibank or Axis, the bot is quite different. But
They
both
might
are
be-
using the same technology, right?
Ah,
But how they are
Concept the same.
configured and
Concept the same.
the data that they have trained,
Yes.
that makes a difference.
so adoption depends a lot on on a lot of things, including the data that is at the back end. Sorry.
Yeah, I think before we go to the process identity approach, I think one very critical thing nowadays that are being used globally is you have heard this responsible AI stuff, right? So basically, any AI technology you're using for giving a user experience or churning a data, so there is a responsible AI angle to that, whether you're doing the correct way. I will give you an example. HR, so selecting the job screening, the type of job the organization requires from the pattern, and creating the JD can be done by a GenAI model, and this is a very popular use case. But the problem is, I've seen businesses who are rejecting this, stating that there is a legal issue to that. So, any advisors, they call them advisors, right? GenAI advisors are generating that. It's a hindrance to the data. So I think there is a when we are doing a platform selection nowadays, there is a GenAI, responsible AI checklist that has come as part of GRC basically, which they are also evaluating when they're selecting the platform, right? Organizations. So this is very critical also when you're selecting the use case and whether you are applying that use case to a particular use case. Okay, I think this is the RPA process. How you select a process, and we were mentioning, right? If you see, it's a repetitive process, right? It's a repetitive process being done by human and manual, of course, right? Rule-based processes, simple rules, low exception rate, so errors are less, basically. These are standardized, like they don't change a lot. Inputs are like in standard formats, like in document, PDF, etc. Not high volumes, low complexity. So as I mentioned that very high volume, which will give you a value, and typically large teams, because if you say for example a data entry job, right? You have say 50 members doing that. I'm not saying you reduce 50 FT, like those persons can be utilized in something else, but it's like a 50-member job doing the persons doing the same thing. That's the ideal candidate if all the boxes 50. So this is like a kind of a Bible or a checklist for selecting the process, but there can be many more, right? Some common, very popular processes across the different industries. Now HR, if I see, if you see in HR, the employee onboarding is a very I will say hot area for adoption. I am seeing more on the more on the benefit side also, and also on the workforce management side, a lot adoption. Similarly in finance, if you see P2P, O2C, these are all very high, I think applicability of RPA or intelligent automation there, right? Okay. Bank reconciliation is also one, which is a very old use case basically for RPA. Okay, so go to the next. some illustrative, what we have tried to put in here is that, what is the high RP potential and medium potential in these particular. We have selected finance and HR, which are two very critical areas. And as I was mentioning the finance, if you see the AR and AP, the accounts receivable and account payable sections are areas are very high potential candidates for RPA. And besides your reporting, financial reporting.
This is based on both experience and research.
Yes, this is based on both experience and research. Okay, I mean, you will not find this in Google always. It's like from years of what we have seen the adoption. Okay, maybe some of the boxes you will see the medium potential has become high now. It's slightly dated, but still it holds true. Okay, learning and development is another big area basically for RP adoption. We have some videos. Should we show the videos?
Okay.
Just. I'm not going to detail.
No, you can skip this. Go to the finance.
Okay, this one. This is a very interesting use case we were used to do for internal audit, right? A lot of cases we are seeing RP adoptions, right, from years actually. Because internal audit, if you see those people who
we
are
not GRC professionals.
We are not GRC professionals.
Much more experience, but we can give you the cues.
Yeah. So in internal audit, if you see, you will be pretty familiar with these challenges, right? Most of many of you who are already aware of the process. That there is you have many systems for data collection, right? Diverse kind of data. There is a reporting, multiple reporting issues may be there. The audit timeline cost may be there. The coverage part is also there, issues, etc. And ERPs, multiple ERPs, accessibility, etc. To extract the data, do the data churning, find the discrepancies, and report it, right? Now, if you go to the next slide, actually we have actually implemented these in a few clients in India for internal audit by a different model of engagement, but by deploying bots. So basically, you deploy bots to collect the data, doing the data discovery. You do the integration with the systems, the bots. You get the data, you do the variance analysis, you put it into the report, do the reporting. Okay, the bot does the same multiple times in across different areas. Exactly these features, what we have written here, are being used by the bot. Okay, internal audit is a very very growing use case in RP adoption from years, I will say. Right, Abhi, I think from 2018-17 we started basically on that. Yeah.
So I think there would be questions on this list.
Yeah. So please, yeah, I will just put it here. So this, these are some of the use cases. I'm not reading entirely. You can just go through a bit the internal audit areas where it can be applied.
Can I ask?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
When you're talking about the HR, what kind of you're talking about recruitment? So this recruitment the checking starts from, I'm using typical audit board. From where the checking would start from for the recruitment? Is it on the basis
HR database. HR data. Recruitment data.
Okay. Whatever. So, that means whatever is there in the database.
Yeah.
I am an internal auditor. I check that.
Correct.
Now, when that person suppose a person is recruited by that company where I am doing the audit, they are supposed to get it, for police verification and all that.
Background data, you need to have that data.
So
you need to give bot the access to that actually. Of course, the bot will.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So usually it is the single source of truth is the employee file, right? So employee file that is getting created. From the time he applies, gives his CVs, mark sheets, etc. And then there are external databases which manage the criminal record and other things. So those expose APIs, but those are not available like that. So you'll have to get a lot of approvals to access those APIs.
So these will also, and you may not get digital data also. So
you may not.
Unstructured.
You may not. Yeah, unstructured. Correct. That's
what
something.
about unstructured.
So it's typically you as an internal auditor is going to the firm, and they are supposed to give you that data access. So they will give the access to a bot.
They will give us access to
the bot. Instead of the person, it's a bot doing the same thing.
Architecture, there is someone.
And the bot is doing very fast.
someone who is doing a BGV call, right, for that candidate based on a checklist. So that person will be replaced by a program.
Okay.
So the bot is doing on behalf of you what you are doing in a more efficient and more faster.
Is it, I mean, obviously this is practically getting
Yes,
accepted in
yes,
the
yes.
client. In our
They
country,
are-
I'm talking
This
about
is
my
There are-
live data. This is live. This
Oh,
is
it is.
from a
There are organizations doing it. They are saving a lot of time also, making it more efficient, the BGV process as a whole. But personally, when we have those, so I'm also associated with a lot of HR communities. So when we discuss with the HR personnel, I don't think they have a acceptance of doing these kinds of activities to a bot.
That is another problem.
Just
It will take time.
Regarding the application change management, IT and cyber security,
Yes.
change management, how it can be applied? Suppose I am sending the approval from one server to another server that needs to be validated by the users and business process owner and other people. They need to sign all the documentation. In that stage, how bot can be applied?
Sorry, you need to verify that the verification part can be handled by the bot. No, internal auditor. Achha, you're saying the change management, this part, right? No, but I think the cyber security, what reviews is basically the access, what access rights are there
The
exactly.
second point, change management.
I think the documentation.
It's basically the documentation part only.
Documentation.
Basically the documentation part.
Yeah.
So whatever documentation you are reviewing,
So-
that will be done by a bot.
See,
Let
let
me
me a
add
simple
to-
example. If there is a firewall rule, I'm interested in finding out whether the firewall rule, whatever rules have been created, there is a corresponding CR available for that or not.
Correct,
I can
correct.
use a bot which will check,
Correct.
validate and give the confirmation. Even in lot of cases we use these bots to verify whether for the change approval there are all all workflows have been
Correct,
closed or
correct,
not.
correct.
And
And it is
those
very
things
fast
also
checking, that is the reason.
That means this is very well can be used in GRC review.
Yes,
actually.
Yes.
Other
It is being used. It's being used actually.
Reconciliation is one of the best cases.
Base case,
Internal
You
is
give
part
the
of
data,
Ah.
train the bot, and then it will do the reconciliation and tell you the results. Otherwise, it is like in and out. If you want to check whether in a door, particular door, access control, there is a matching entry and exit or not. So you can train a bot and the bot can do the job for you.
Yes, correct.
Sir, I have a question regarding the legal perspective. Do you have any limitation in India to use RPA for the healthcare industry, for example? Any legal rule that is preventing these to materialize?
It is not exactly legal, I would say, because see, healthcare there are a lot of regulatory guidances for running a healthcare provider business. Now, there are guidances, compliances and all. So, there are no specific guidance not to use a bot anywhere. So, if you are using a bot for a particular process, if it doesn't go beyond those guidelines, you can use it.
And I think all these platforms.
And it is not only in India, throughout the world.
All these platforms like UiPath is a RPA platform, right? They
So-
come with their own security controls. They are certified security control measures basically. So it's not that your data, there's a data compliance issue also is covered.
So since you are talking about healthcare, so we just had a rollout of a digital patient engagement platform in one of the UAE countries, and the government actually is rolling out that platform for the citizens. So there are engagement models with the private sector or the government healthcare providers and all. That's a different story. But what the platform is doing is, it is heavily using automation as a weapon to enhance the patient experience. How is it doing it? Say, आज की date में you are actually visiting a hospital, and you are in long queues, and then after that you are getting an appointment, going to the OPD, getting yourself checked, then you are getting medicine or getting yourself the diagnostic tests done. All this is a chain of or a sequential set of processes. Now, if you can actually automate these processes, how? Say, for example, you use a simple mobile app, right? And think about a situation where you have a symptom checker, right? So heavily dependent on AI algorithms running at the back and data to be fed into it. So you do a symptom checking. Based on that symptom checking, you are directed by that app to the relevant specialist, and the appointment is booked there. You get the registration done for that hospital in the app itself. You pay, so you are skipping the queue entirely. You just go directly to the, at say a given time, go to the doctor, visit there, and the doctor, against that particular appointment number and the PRN, he uploads the e-prescription, and that is directly integrated with the EHR. Right. So centrally EHR is stored somewhere, whether it's a separate system or whatever, it's integrated. And that EHR is your single source of truth for your diagnostic test, your OPD and your IPD, if you are admitted to the IPD. So think about a situation like this, how it benefits a normal patient. If you can add telemedicine to it, how it benefits a patient who is taking a remote care, how it benefits an elderly person whose, say for example, whose parents are outside India, whose kids, the children are outside India and they are staying alone. If they have these kind of facilities, how does it happen? And this is all depend and governed by these automation techniques. But while these are social and other benefits that we are getting as human beings, there are a lot of negative points.
But I think that HR, you may have done, but in India, there's not a common platform for HR.
So government, there are
government has to act as the.
So there are initiatives being taken. We don't know how long it will take.
Common EHR to take it.
ব্যাংকে হচ্ছে ব্যাংকে এই ধরনের
ব্যাংকে একটু সিকিউরিটি নিয়ে একটু লোকজন একটু ইস্যুস আছে, বাট হচ্ছে ব্যাংকে প্রচুর কাজ হচ্ছে। ব্যাংক ইজ অ্যাডপ্টিং হেভি।
আরবিআই রিজার্ভ ব্যাংক
আরবিআই এখনো সেইভাবে কিছু আলাদা করে অ্যাডপ্ট করে নি, বাট ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল ব্যাংক ভালো অ্যাডাপশন আছে। দে আর অ্যাডপ্টিং হেভি in different use cases.
So, RPA is expanding widely, and as you mentioned in one of the previous slides, you mentioned which industries it is being focused on, like banking, telecom, etc. But banking and other sectors, retail.
Banking is having banking is more, retail is more, these sectors are adoption is more basic.
My question is basically, we are an economy of 1.4 billion people with a lot of MSMEs and SME players as well. So, what do you see this RPA being implemented across these sectors as well?
I think there was a slide where it said the most adoption is in the SME sector. SME sector is adopted the most. The point is why? Because SME sector has a huge pressure of cost reduction, cost challenges are there, right? Now there is an issue of this FT part, right? So we're reducing. So I think what organizations are moving is they are.
Just give a minute. What's that? Goldman Sachs report. Just bear with us for a moment. I wanted to show you a report from Goldman Sachs that has come in very recently, which talks about industry adoption around automation, AI. A lot of things are going on, right? With Meta, with ChatGPT. Last year, everybody started jumping and started using. এত কিছু যে হচ্ছে কি অ্যাকচুয়ালি পেছনে কি হচ্ছে, how is the industry and the world shaping up around it. So there is a very good report that I got yesterday. I wanted to show it to you. If he has downloaded, otherwise I will show it. You got.
Yeah.
Please carry.
Can we do anything about the resolution? Because slide কি হচ্ছে মাঝখানে ডেটগুলোর যে টেক্সট আছে
আচ্ছা আমি বলছি, I will tell you. So this is a typical vendor invoicing use case, which is a very common use case for RP adoption. What happens here is that you have the first is the PR, the PO is generated. You have the PO approved, which is like so P approved. This is manual. This is not, the bot is not doing anything. Once the PO is approved, you receive the invoice. So vendor invoice comes into as a scanned copy or as a hand copy, whatever. Now there you have a RPA bot who is sitting, and that bot has a OCR solution, optical character recognition solution, and we call this combination as a IDP, intelligent document processing. For large organizations, they have a scan center where it comes, and there is a OCR solution which scans that particular template. So that template, when they scan, they have already a predefined grammar with them or a predefined template based on which they pick up the fields, right? And then they do the validation. Validation can be whether there is a right PO in SAP, right? If it's a PO based invoice, like whether there is a 3-way match, there is a dedupe check, duplicate check, etc. And once everything is done, the bot posts that the GL into the SAP basically. So that is the process flow which is being implemented as a very common in the invoice processing, invoice matching process. This is what is mentioned here. Sorry for the resolution, I cannot explain it.
No, what you
that
can
is
do
the-
is, I tell you,
Yeah.
you exit the presentation mode and zoom in.
Zoom it.
এখানে zoom করুন। There should be some, definite, well, it is not easy to do that change management also. But unless and until we are able to do it, you will not get the maximum benefit out of this program.
So there is one more catch here. এখন যেটা হয়েছে like they have brought in those AI concept there. So একটা template যদি if I define, আমার যদি 10,000 vendor থাকে, আমার কাছে তো 1000খানা টাইপের টেমপ্লেট থাকবে। So 1000খানা টাইপের টেমপ্লেট মেনটেন করাও is a bit difficult. So what they have done is they use the grammar, right? The যেটা মডেলে ইউজ হয়, they train their bot to use the grammar to read the templates basically. এগুলো আছে, ঠিক আছে? So that's এই প্রসেসটা আসলে দেখানো হয়েছে because I think this is a very standard process যেটা অনেক বেশ কয়েক বছর ধরে অটোমেট হয়েছে আর কি। হ্যাঁ এগুলো ইন্ডিয়াতে ইমপ্লিমেন্ট হয়েছে।
ইন্ডিয়া ফার্স্ট আমি বলি
এটা মাল্টিপল
2010
এখানে আমাদের এখন ইন্ডিয়াতে অনেক কোম্পানি কি হচ্ছে আরিবাতে শিফট হয়ে গেছে,
হ্যাঁ,
স্যাপ আছে তারা আরিবাতে শিফট হয়ে গেছে। এন্ড আরিবা বেসিক্যালি এই প্রসেসটা আরিবাই করে দিচ্ছে। তো যদি আরিবাই করে দিচ্ছে, আমরা যদি এক্সটারনালি আরো ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করতে যাই তখন তো সে নেবে না।
না,
আরিবা বেসিক্যালি স্ট্যান্ডার্ডাইজ করে দিচ্ছে পুরো ইনভয়েসিং পার্টটাও, এন্ড ওটার সাথে ইন্টারলিংক করে দিচ্ছে স্যাপে।
না আরিবা তো ইনভয়েস রেজ করছে না।
এইটা কিন্তু একটু সরি একটু কারেক্ট করছি, আরিবা এটা করে না। এটার জন্য একটা ভিম বলে একটা টুল আছে, ওপেন টেক্সট ভেন্ডর ইনভয়েস ম্যানেজমেন্ট, যেটা এসএপির সাথে ইন্টিগ্রেট করে এই টুলটা। আরিবা কিন্তু
আরিবা কন্ট্রাক্টিং
আরিবা আপনার আপস্ট্রিমটা করবে, ডাউনস্ট্রিমটা এইটা কিন্তু ভেন্ডর
Beam
ইনভয়েস
করে এটা Beam করে। So Beam এর
Sorry, তো correct করে।
Beam has vendor invoice management as specific OCR to organize it and they integrate seamlessly with it basically. But only thing is that যে organization এটা আছে, many organizations don't have that. They don't invest heavily in that, right? ঠিক আছে? This is one use case, but lot of platforms have their own bots also by the way. They use their own bots to automate actually these things.
ইন্ডিয়াতে আমি একটা এক্সাম্পল আপনাকে দিচ্ছি, আমি নিজে কাজ করি, আজ থেকে 14 বছর আগের কথা বলছি, 14 না 12 বছর আগের কথা বলছি। ইট ওয়াজ ডান ফর, দিস ওয়াজ দ্য ওয়ান অফ দ্য ফার্স্ট ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশন যেটা উনি বললেন। এসএপি ছিল, দে মুভড ইনটু আ শেয়ার সার্ভিস, ইট ইজ ওয়ান অফ দ্য লার্জেস্ট টেলিকম কোম্পানি অফ ইন্ডিয়া, and incidentally that was my first project award also. মানে ইন্ডিয়াতে দ্যাট ওয়াজ দ্য বেস্ট ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশন ফ্রম ওয়ান অফ দ্য কনসাল্টিং অর্গানাইজেশন। এবার ওরা পুরো অ্যাকাউন্টস পেয়েবলটাকে শেয়ার সার্ভিসে নিয়ে গেছে এবং দে ওয়ান্টেড টু হ্যাভ আ প্ল্যাটফর্ম এন্ড টু এন্ড অন টপ অফ এসএপি টু ডু দিস সিমলেসলি। তখন দিস ওয়াজ নট সো সফিস্টিকেটেড, বাট এই ভিম তখন ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করা হয়েছিল ওপরে অন এসএপি, ফুললি ইন্টিগ্রেটেড উইথ এসএপি টু to take care of the entire downstream invoice. মানে পুরো ইনভয়েসটা এলো,
Invoice processing.
মানে আপনার একটা সেন্ট্রাল মেল রুমে এসে পড়লো, সেখান থেকে মেল রুম থেকে নিয়ে কেউ একজন বসে সেটাকে আপলোড করলো, ইনভয়েসটা মেটা ডেটাটা রিড করলো। এবার কি হতো, যেটা আমরা প্র্যাকটিক্যাল এক্সপিরিয়েন্সে দেখেছিলাম, মেটা ডেটা রিড করছে, করতে করতে প্রচুর মেটা ডেটা পড়তে পারছে না ওসিআর। তখন কি হচ্ছে, there are manual interventions that are required. So there is a manual interventions plus the training. তখন there was no concept of machine learning. 14 years back there was no concept of machine learning, but the training we did is what we are doing in machine learning today. So it is widely adopted.
Very widely across industries.
যেটা আমি আপনাকে 14 বছর আগে বললাম।
Across industries. It's not just telecom, pharma কে আমি নিয়ে করি, pharma, retail, bank, finance,
Pharma,
insurance.
Kolkataয় we have done it for
Hyderabad.
Kolkata we have done it for one of the largest, I would say, conglomerates, and they are using it effectively.
Yeah, this in part I was aware, but what I'm trying to say is that invoice posting পর্যন্ত করে দেয়, মানে straight to payment for payment.
SAP তে post হয়ে যায়।
হ্যাঁ, মানে okay, so there are workflows. There are workflows where manual interventions are required. It's not that. See, I will tell you at an interesting finish. In a different note, so IBM, when they came up with this Watson technology, right? Watson Health, they initially was calling Watson Health and all those stuff, but after a few months they started calling Watson Health advisor.
Interrupting you. Big fan of IBM. Watson কতবার বলল, so he
I was part of Watson team, so I'm saying I was a part of Watson team, so I'm saying they call Watson Health advisors. Why? Because there are legal complications when you are doing something as a decision maker, which is done by a robot or a bot or a automation program, there are legal complications. So it is advisor. Same here. There is a workflow. Somebody needs to give that tick as an approval. That okay, this is fine, and then the bot will post, right? Something like that. So that is there. That has to be there. So that's why there are manual workflows. That's what you were saying, when something goes into the exception, right? And somebody needs to go there and correct the data or do something, right? And then again it will start processing basically. So that
he is currently the transformation lead for a very large program.
And Ariba, we were there actually. So I was just mentioning there. Very large
global pharmaceutical company.
So like the entire
post-merger scenario, where they are kind of rationalizing and consolidating the entire platform, and obviously SAP being the ERP.
And that's SAP heavy, and this is automation is a very key that I was mentioning for the transformation program, which leads to a cost, right, of transformation across value streams. So that's the thing. I mean, workflow should be there, and Ariba doesn't do that. This is very old use case actually. I'm saying that people who are. I think we are almost done. The couple of things just technology use RPA. One is OCR, so we just mentioned, like it is, and nowadays they don't call OCR, they call IDP, Intelligent Document Processing. Okay, and OCR platform এর মধ্যেই আছে ওরা document post করে integrate করতে পারে, and there are multiple solutions available in the market. ঠিক আছে, Kofax is one. We made open text আছে SAP basically. Then you have your app, তো আমি যেটা বললাম আগে already. Multiple OCR solutions are there in the market. Platform selection, tool selection is also with companies, and second is the cognitive and machine learning, which I mentioned. All automation platforms are coming with their own copilot kind of versions basically with them, and they are selling that like that key with the AI component. Okay. And last but not the least, this is kind of a Gartner quadrant. I think everybody has seen that. UiPath still leads the quadrant as a tool, UiPath and automation anywhere. And Microsoft is coming heavy, with this
2023.
It's too old, but still it is true. 2023 December, July, but I think still today it is still relevant. Microsoft is coming heavy. Okay, the quadrant. So if you see Blue Prism has gone down. So Blue Prism is still there, but it's like at the back.
India ke UiPath is very prominent.
There are some
automation anywhere is
like Appian. These are all very specific to industries, like insurance. Appian is used actually. Appian is used in insurance. I think SAP and Pega also has something. Pega also has a huge,
So some of these platforms, coming to technology now, Some of these platforms used to be a BPM platform earlier. Now they have, matured to become RPA platform providers, and now they are heavily bringing in AI and cognitive capabilities to, be an intelligent automation. So that is the journey.
Yeah, and last, I will just end my statement by saying, now globally, how the companies are taking these RTA initiatives is they are going for a demand supply based model. Everybody is going. So basically, the supply is your bot factory. So they are preparing this bot factory where they are kind of delivering from a bot factory. So it's basically a bot based sizing, whereas the demand teams are basically generating the demands based on certain necessities. This is the model most of the organizations worldwide are moving, and I think India will also move towards that. So it is a very, very interesting model, but this is the delivery model that's currently being adopted across, being very measured by your number of demands you are generating and dollar value or the value cases you are generating and what you are providing to the bot factory to sustain that basically.
I'll just show you one report that I was talking about, and then we can take questions. That report.
One question.
We'll come to questions. Just give me. So we are talking so much about AI and all. Just it's an open forum. Do you think? How do you think AI will come up in the next 5-10 years? Any wild guess?
It will take away repetitive jobs, that's for sure.
And
Scary for the auditors.
No, just not repeated, just repetitive jobs. আমরা একটা মজার কথা বলি, আমরা যে প্রপোজাল বানাই in our daily life, ওটা কি নিয়ে নেবে, তুলে নেবে? কোপাইলট তো নিয়ে নিচ্ছি।
See, a lot of things require human intelligence.
Yes,
AI cannot change that. AI, see, there is a lot of hype about AI, generative AI in particular, but then for sure it will take away the work which is kind of natural workplace. You talked about it, right? Where you have a defined workflow, steps are simple, those things is gone. There's no question about that. But then there are a lot of areas where you need specialization and human intervention. So it will be like you need people who can guide these agents. That will be the trend going forward. If we talk about AI has done everything, AI can replace everything, no. There are specific use cases where Gen AI is working, but not everywhere. But hype is like it can do a lot of
we have
things.
generated a code using ChatGPT and Copilot. What is the precision percentage you think in Copilot and in GPT-4?
It creates the framework very well.
Now, what is the percentage? Who generates more percentage? Copilot or GPT?
See, eventually both are created on similar LLMs, like they're ultimately using OpenAI, both ChatGPT as well as the Copilot. Given that Microsoft has partnership with
You've
OpenAI.
generated both, no? You've generated both, right? I'm still in right, don't take it.
Yeah, it's
Copilot generating more persistent.
so we have Gemini now, we have Llama from Facebook.
Let me tell you, while it speaks, I have seen that. I was a developer in my initial days, right? I'm a hardcore developer. It generates, I think, 40 to 50% precision, not more than that. Just generate.
So you have customized.
Just enhance the framework.
You are correct.
I think the good developers' days are still there. Average or lower average developers' days are gone, but good developers' days will be there. They're still there. I agree.
Very important to see this. So this is a recent report from Goldman Sachs, and this talks about the history of AI over the last, couple of years. And you would see where we are talking about, ChatGPTs of the world and all. Look at the last 3-4 blocks. I am not too sure if you can read it. I'll talk about June 2024. Right? McDonald's removes AI-assisted ordering from its drive-thru after numerous order errors. June 2024, Nvidia surpasses 31 trillion market value, briefly becoming the largest stock in the S&P 500 before correcting towards the end of the month.
Nvidia is facing a lot of attrition.
Yes, and Nvidia stock slides, company losses its status and the share prices, the stock prices have drastically come down after they adopted it. So I think while there was a hype, there is a hype still, but people have slowly started realizing that they need to think and take those steps. So this is that data that will give you an idea that automation ঠিক আছে ভালো অনেক কিছু হবে কিন্তু বুঝে শুনে দেওয়া ভালো।
মানে AI based automation, what is saying, but there are automations like other automations are there, like workflow integration of workflows is also an automation, right? If we do that, is also that also generates value. So you should understand that AI is not the automation end goal. There are a lot of more automations.
Sir, I have a question regarding the implementation. Which particular programming language is nowadays preferred for these types of?
So I told in RPA, mostly UiPath and automation anywhere are being used. But there are other, like Pega has its own RPA platform, okay. So I showed you Appian is there. Appian has a low code, no code platform, but it also has bots, right? And many platforms are giving bots to you as free. But those bots are very native bots for that platform. Okay. If you ask me, RPA, I think UiPath and automation anywhere are the two leaders there.
Which perspective? Developer perspective, implementation perspective, adoption perspective, which perspective?
From developer perspective, I am asking how this.
Developer perspective, I will see. If you are using UiPath is built over .NET platform. So .NET jane, he can use the functions. If he is a developer in UiPath, he knows the functions what to call. The .NET, it's a .NET code actually. You can write it there, right? So developer perspective, but business adoption is different.
So very related to what we were just discussing. So head of global equity research at Goldman Sachs. AI must solve very complex problems, which it currently isn't capable of doing and may never do. So we end our session through this and we can open it up for questions.
So one question. So previously, like pre-COVID time, there used to be a dilemma that the output that we get from an AI or from certain technology and the power used for it, there used to be a balance for the same. Like if I'm using so much power, then I need so much of output. But now
Power means like
the computing power.
Computing
Power and the resources required for that. But post-COVID nowadays, most of the organizations are focusing on the output. They don't care much about the resources and they are saying, I want the output.
Resources have become less costly,
Yes.
cheaper now, right?
Yes, so that brings me to the point that given all of the current way the ecosystem is heading towards, what do you see AI jumping towards and
So I think the point of quantum computing is coming that way. They are pushing quantum computing because of the endless computational power. And see, I will tell you, IoT, this technology, right? There are billions, I think, of IoT devices worldwide. There is a huge computing resource in money. The data they are generating, there is no computing resource to actually churn that data. So data is just lying. Nobody has the power to churn that. I think that's why quantum computing is coming, right? Quantum computing concept, though I don't think it has been adopted that far now, but that's why the concept of quantum computing is coming and so much research is going on for the endless computing power. So I can churn that data with the least cost and I can generate something right from that.
and how do you foresee
I mean, I'm just telling you, sorry.
And how do you foresee that, like when you foresee that happening actually, when it actually is able to churn the data and it is more visible? Like LLM, ChatGPT, for example, that is has been decades into the making now, which we are seeing. It is not.
No, it is now by your things because of the data, because of the connected device, because of the internet revolution, because of the the usage of data worldwide, right?
অনেক দেব আছে ইউটিউবে বললে অনেক
আমরা ভালো internet
if you select a particular RPA vendor, say a UiPath or an automation anyone or anyone, so they have their canned demos. Say for example, you reach out to them and tell them that for this use case, and if you have decided that you will have a automated use case for say accounts payable, you can reach out to them and they have canned demos to make you convince you that this can be available. So these are generic demos, freely available. But and even I think in some of those websites also they have demos. They would be able to tell. They have that. UiPath में तो definitely.
Both of them. Actor Jinish, I just want to say here, in RPA, I even record your activities. So, whatever you just start a recording, you do a set of activities what you do in the system. From the recording, the bot will pick up that recording. That way, it is like a normal person without any technology knowledge. Just use that bot for that particular purpose.
Scrapping, right?
Screen scraping, yeah. So there's a recording option, I think. In UiPath, I know there is a recording option. Make the recording on. HR, I think financial reporting was there. Financial reporting was there. Financial reporting was there. Just let me check what this is.
Hi, excuse me. Yes, please. Yeah, I see your.
This is payments. I think we go for the financial, the bank reconciliation.
Bank reconciliation.
They change. This is reconciliation of what is a very useful thing because reconciliation will take a lot of time.
we open it up to question for questions? I think you have
दो क्वेश्चन है मेरे पास। पहला कि एक सैप एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जो सैप इम्प्लीमेंट करती है, दूसरी वो सेम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अगर इस आरपीए को इम्प्लीमेंट करती है, तो बिजनेस प्रोस्पेक्ट में देखा जाए तो कॉस्ट डेविएशन कितना है? मैं अगर ये इस मॉडल को अप्लाई करूं तो क्यों करूं? मेरे पास पहले से भी दो मॉडल अवेलेबल है।
For what?
और बिजनेस प्रोसेस इम्प्लीमेंटेशन।
So,
मतलब कहीं ना कहीं मुझे कुछ ना कुछ प्रॉपर दिखनी चाहिए।
So, there are levels of automation, and I think we were discussing at the beginning of the meeting, I mean the session. So, when you are implementing an ERP, there is a level of automation that you achieve, right? And when you take a step higher, you implement RPA or intelligent automation, using AI or RPA. It will be over and above your ERP. Say for example, accounts payable, right? As a process, the base MM process is implemented in SAP, right? It helps you manage your master and transactional data for managing the MM process, and the MM process is configured in SAP so that end-to-end आपका process चल जाए. But if you want to get a little higher in terms of automation, in terms of reducing the turnaround time, making it more efficient with respect to the process, saving more cost, then you have to go for
फैक्टर में जाना
Give an example. Sorry, I'll give an example. आपका master data management में there is a lot of RPA use cases. So let's say material master operation. So say in the organization you have a process key, like there are the users, right? So there is a master data management group, etc. And business group who need a change to that material, right? They raise maybe a ticket and they fill some form, which is maybe a Excel or something, which is manual, right? There's some basic validations on that form. That form can be a Excel macro also, maybe macro based form. And then that goes to some team. They then log into SAP with that form data, etc. They create that master, or they update that master in SAP based on that basic request, right? This process is there. So more processes within SAP. And outside there is the some process. This is a typical RP use case. So what it does is that you have a channel. You create a automation form, which still users will enter the data, and that form can be intelligent form. So it can have online validations basically with some master, with some data which it already has, right? It can give you the kind of a auto indication of values to the user. So the user fills the form. There is a validation, and then that data can be taken up by a RPA bot. And the RPA bot can log into SAP as a user and update. Because some of the data you need lot of screens, right? Some of the data type you may need to traverse to say 50, say 20, 30 screens because equals, right? So that kind of automation is a very wide.
मैं क्या समझ सकता हूँ कि सिस्टम को ऑप्टिमाइज करने के लिए सिस्टम
ये आपका जो काम है ना, ये 50 लोग कर रहे हैं
I know.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is basically a reduction in that support cost.
हाई मैच्योरिटी में सिस्टम को ऑप्टिमाइज करने में ये ज़्यादा बेटर।
Optimize means, if you have a standard way of doing, but you have a high cost of doing that, right? One of the things is cost reduction, right? Second thing is efficiency, time reduction, right? Your cycle time reduction.
हाँ वही प्रोसेस
आपको अगर करंट प्रोसेस 7 दिन लगता है, and आप अभी उसको एक घंटे में कर सकते हैं।
सेम जो आप कह रहे हैं, मैं वही कह रहा हूँ कि सिस्टम को ऑप्टिमाइज करने का यही होता है कि प्रोसेस ऑप्टिमाइज हो जाएगी तो डेफिनेटली 10 फैक्टर होंगे जो आपके मिनिमाइज हो जाएंगे।
The use case I gave you is by the way, a very live use case worldwide. Master data. This is a very, I think applicable in a lot of industry. This master data management.
Any more questions?
From the perspective of security, let's say currently an organization is doing some manual work, okay, and they are moving to RPA. So these bots will have access to a lot of internal databases. They will have a lot of API access, and RPA model they will have UI based access means username, password, and everything. So from the perspective of security, if that organization is moving away from manual to RPA, what kind of changes they have to implement and how they can manage security?
No, so that's what I'm saying. That I mentioned something. I think, for example, UiPath, right? UiPath, যখনই vendorরা আসবে, when these vendors come, they have their own security controls. For example, UiPath, একটা use case always there. They work with NASA. They work with US federal government. So they say that we work with NASA. So you see our security. So I think all the security controls they have to abide to, right? All these vendors.
Mostly they just use the SOC report, SOC 1 and SOC 2.
They have a lot of other controls.
Yeah,
They have a lot of other controls and that's completely compliant.
So it's about you have to see when you are building up a bot, it's nothing but a software program, right? So you have to see how you are creating that bot, what level of privileges you are
So
giving.
now the
What
one thing is
accesses
that
you are
so
giving,
there has to be RTA admins also who control those accesses. So there is a, for example, Levin what there is user ID password for the bot also, right? To log into it. It's a system access. It's a just like if you have an application program to log into a system and do something, that application program uses a ID and password, right? And that ID and password has to follow the same controls. So there is a password expiry, there is a access control, ACL being followed, right? All these things being there. That's as per the organization policy.
it's a tricky thing because when you create a user ID and passwords, we always put a restriction on console login and login of the system. So a system does a job, so there is a set of user ID and password. That user ID and password cannot be used for console login. So if you are a human being, you cannot log into the system using that user ID and password. That is one check. So apart from this, there are a lot of checks which are built in to ensure that this is not done. We talk about SOC 1 report, SOC 2 report, but these are, if you ask me as a security person, can you rely on these reports? The answer is no.
একটা ছোট্ট example. You all use day-to-day life. You all use a multiple number of websites. There's a concept called capture. Why is it used?
Because of the
To prevent bot from accessing.
So
ChatGPT can read that, right? The captcha,
it can,
but
but
ideally it should.
ideally it should not. But I'll tell you, and that is what he was also mentioning. Responsible AI is a concept আসছে, and there are certain initiatives taken. So say for example, there is a LLM, right? If all of you understand what it is, and there is your data stored inside your organization. So at some point in time, this LLM is directly interacting with your data store, right? Or your application which is reading that LLM along with the data store. Some kind of interactions or integrations. আজকের ডেটে to make it more secure, at the end of the day you are exposing your organization data. To make it more secure, there will be a concept of middleware which will come in. And আমাদের যে two-tier web architecture যে middleware concept আছে, এখানে আমার একটা architecture আসবে which will actually filter out the threats from a security perspective. It is not yet done. That is why captchas and all can be read through ChatGPTs of the world. But slowly it will achieve. And this is not what I am saying, Gata has said.
So one of the examples.
Last question.
Yeah.
The last question.
Yeah. No, I'm just answering one of those. So right now in ASAP they are moving forward with a thing called principal propagation. So where the user whoever has that access, they will like their ID can access that particular bot and perform that, and no other ID is required, like any generic ID is required.
No, but that bot, that's what I'm saying. Bot, that is a, so what is bot and so on. So if you ask, for example, in UiPath, if it's an unattended bot,
Yeah.
it runs as a backend thing.
Yeah.
There's no user in that basically.
Yeah,
But if it's an
exactly.
attended bot, of course it's
Yeah.
tied to a user, right? No, what I was saying was that there is as part of GRC controls now, the AI controls are coming in. This is one of the things when you are actually kind of going to an implementation for a particular platform,
you have to pass through all those GRC controls basically to onboard that platform application into the ecosystem, right? So those controls are coming in, and responsible AI is one of them. With respect to your data access, with respect to the user, and what are the access basically, right? The controls.
In fact, EU has released that act, EU Act March 2024, that talks about AI related what checklist controls. What is the
This
act?
is there,
The first thing which has come up in the world. But a lot of countries will
This
now
is
make their
also
own.
part of the product selection, by the way. Different organizations does this product selection exercise, right? You select a tool or platform. This is an additional section being performed by GRC or the respective, procurement teams. It's part of the AI controls.
Thank you all for being a patient listener. And we hope that we interact in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhijit sir, Ujjal sir, for sharing your insights. Before you leave, sir, I would request Pankaj Kakarania sir to present a memento. So,